session of the Resident Philosopher Talk at the AI Collective. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are very glad to have you all here for this very special session with Professor Pilyoung Kim. So, I am very happy to host this session because it's about a topic that is very close to my heart, and I have here one of the leading researchers on this topic regarding children and adolescents interacting with AI. So, I am a great admirer of your work, Professor Kim, and I am very, very glad to have you here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us. I am also very glad because I had very nice vacations and now I can see you guys again so that we can restart to this great year of 2026. I hope you guys had a great holiday session as well and that you can start 2026 with full energy. So thank you very much for being with us along this year as well. Um, I would like to also talk about the AI collective, the AI collective, just briefly for the people who never heard about our organization. So, for those who are joining us for the first time, the AI Collective is a global nonprofit community founded in San Francisco, gathering today over 1,000 members worldwide, including policymakers, people interested in new types of AI, investors, scholars, and builders committed to fostering trust, responsible AI, openness, and human flourishing in this era. If you do not know me yet, my name is Anna, and I am the resident philosopher at the AI Collective. And I am very much delighted to be hosting this session in order to open the year. Let's talk about this episode just to briefly introduce what we will be discussing today. And it's a very important topic that will change the next generation. And this is why I want you to hold on with me because this session of today will be great and you will see. So, this episode is titled AI Companions for Children and Teens Comfort, Dependence, or Developmental Risk. And to talk about this today, we have here with us Professor Pilyoung Kim as our guest speaker. As you know, today, when we have this talk about children and AI, children and adolescents using AI, the real question is no longer whether this is happening or not, because this is happening. Children and adolescents are interacting more and more with AI systems. So this is a fact. What we need to understand is how the interaction with AI is shaping adolescents' behavior, meaning how they see, how they experience, and how they will really pass through this formative time and understand their relationships and human life. So, what we need to understand is how this is transforming the emotional bonds, trust, and how children and adolescents are building their inner world precisely at this vulnerable moment in this formative stage of their lives. And this is why we have this conversation today. And this conversation is inspired by a recent article published by Professor Kim that is called I Am Here for You: How Relational Conversational AI Appeals to Adolescents. This work by Professor Kim starts from a simple question, that is, why do certain ways of speaking by AI feel so powerful and engaging to adolescents? And why perhaps this is causing patterns of attachment, or this may lead to that? So, with this brief introduction about the topic we are going to be dealing with today, I would like to now introduce our guest speaker. Professor Pilyoung Kim, PhD, is a professor of psychology at the University of Denver and a visiting scholar at the University of Stanford, and also a director of the Center for Brain, AI, and Child. She is an internationally recognized expert on the relationship between AI and children, combining neuroscience, developmental psychology, and empirical research to understand how AI systems shape children's emotional and cognitive developmental development in real case scenarios. So rather than speculation, because speculation is something that we have a lot in the AI world now, but rather than speculation, Professor Kim's work provides something very, very essential to this debate, which is rigorous scientific evidence to inform responsible design, ethical safeguards, and also future policy responses that we need now in this arena, and also to give some advice on parenting in the age of AI, which has been a challenge for many families. So, with this brief introduction, I would like to hand over to Professor Pilyoung Kim, and I would like to inform you that Professor Kim will be presenting for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and after she finishes her talk, we will have our Q&A session as usual. And you can, of course, open the mic or put your questions on the chat. I will be opening the mic to you so that you can speak directly to Professor Kim at the end of her talk. Okay, so today we have a slightly change in our format, but I am sure that it will be great in order to understand and to absorb the best of the knowledge that Professor Pilyoung Kim can provide to us today. So, Professor Kim, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining us today.
All right, yes. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and thanks, Anna, for excellent introduction and inviting me. I also thank AI Collectives providing this space. So yeah, what I really hope to do today is that, while the AI and child relationship is very rapidly developing, our understanding is a little behind trying to catch up. And so I can share what I've discovered so far, but mainly really to think together that where this is going, and what are some kind of more work also be needed in the future to really support and protect our children. All right, so with that, I'm going to share my slide. Okay, then I'm gonna make it a full screen. Can everybody see? Let's see.
Yeah, it works fine.
It works fine. Okay. I cannot see the like a chat, and so if I don't respond right away, I don't really have a view of the chat. But otherwise, I will be happy to answer those at the end of my presentation. So yes, so today I'm going to tell you about AI companions for children and teens. And at Bake, we'll really try to, like Anna said, bridges developmental sciences. That's what we do at the university in AI design to support and protect children. So for today's time, that I'm hoping to be able to kind of share briefly about how common it is for children to use AI companions. And then I want to kind of tell you that how even we can start thinking about why AI and children will start forming some social relationships with AI, which is at the end of the day, it's just a machine, right? So let's kind of try to think about some psychological mechanisms behind that. And I will share two research studies that we conducted at Bake. One is focusing on early childhood, more like a kindergarten age. And then I spent more time telling you about the second study that we focused on youth, particularly the middle school age youth. Okay, so this was actually conducted by Common Sense Media kind of earlier part of last year. And already there that they have asked thousands of the youth about their use of AI companions. And they define AI companions, including those AI character apps, also general purpose AI chatbots like, ChatGPT, as long as they use it as something like, having some kind of a social, like, casual conversations. And with that, 3 out of 4 adolescents reported that they have used AI companions. And of those who use AI companions, a third of them use it like a lot for social interactions. And what was really interesting in that survey was that while majority of the youth said that they only kind of use it for, like small purposes, not very significant, but there were one third of youth saying that they would choose AI over people for serious talks. And in this figure, what it actually showing is that, again, majority of the youth reported that they found conversations with AI is less satisfying than human. But there's another third say as equally satisfying or more satisfying when they're actually interacting with AI. And I think what we're expecting here with some kind of later surveys that are coming out, the most recently what I saw, I think conducted like later last year, that close to half of the youth reporting to use that, they use AI for their social interactions pretty, frequently. So I think the trend is increasing. And it's not just like, social interactions. We also probably started to hear about some romantic relationships also becoming common using these AI characters. So it's just very fascinating to observe that, our youth and children, they're kind of very rapidly embracing this technology. And this technology is permeating into their very intimate and social space. So with that, I think it's very critical for us to really understand why is it that it's even possible for youth to form some type of social relationship with this technology? Because again, this technology doesn't really have, like, unlike human, it does not have any genuine emotions or feelings and thoughts. It is just a tool. But when our children and youth, when they're interacting with this AI chatbot, that's not how they feel. And if they feel more like they're talking to human, there's a greater chance that they're developing more deeper emotional relationship and companionship with AI chatbot. So what's behind it? So in psychology, we explain one of the key mechanisms for that, for us to developing some type of meaningful social and emotional relationship with technology, is called anthropomorphism. So anthropomorphism is our tendency to apply this attributing this out very kind of uniquely considered like human traits to something that's not human. So for example, for us to think that AI chatbot or technology has emotions, feelings, it can dream and imagine, a lot of those things that we really consider that it's uniquely human. But sometimes we actually like to think that non-human entity can also do that. So anthropomorphism is not exclusive to AI. It's actually a pretty widespread tendency that we use, like for example with pets, right? So pets, technically non-human, but a lot of us consider that pets have emotions. It can understand us. It can think. And people also do this with a supernatural being and even just like a simple machine. So like, for example, sometimes, I say something like that, this printer doesn't like me because today it just decided not to listen to me, right? So that's definitely an example that I apply kind of human-like characteristics to non-human entity. So why do we do this? Apley et al. Have suggested that there could be 3 different factors that can play here. A couple of those are related to our strong desire to kind of control our environment. So if there's something that is a little bit ambiguous, it's hard for us to understand how it operates. we have a strong tendency to apply our existing knowledge to trying to understand that so that we have a greater sense of control of the situation. And what do we understand the best? Human, right? So that's why we apply human knowledge to understand something that's unfamiliar, ambiguous. The third factor is the social connection, the desire for social connection. So as human, we just inherently have a very, very, very strong tendency to form social connections. So when there is something that's interacting with us and sending us some type of feedback, we like to kind of think that it likes us. It's sending us some meaningful social cues to us. So that social connection is a big factor. And age matters because children has more limited knowledge about how things work like a machine. They have a greater tendency to anthropomorphize. But that doesn't mean that adults don't do this. Adults actually do this as well, but often like, oh, that's right, like kind of correcting their knowledge. So if you feel like you're doing, you have an anthropomorphic tendency when you are interacting with AI chatbot, that is not unuseful at all. We do this all the time. And then later, oh, that's right, AI doesn't really have emotions, or AI is not human. So we kind of correct our knowledge. So I want to focus on actually narrowly for today's discussion that social desire part, because I think that's where the youth and children particularly vulnerable for the potential for social and emotional dependency on AI companions. So I want to kind of present the case that very, very strong desire that we have for social bonding. And if we really, really go way back, that's really how our species survived. That, we are social animal, we form social network, we make social connections, and that's how we survived. And you can actually see that our brain is hardwired for understanding the social cues, and really have a strong desire that the other person is making us meaningful social connections with us. And in some ways that the AI chatbot seems to be really targeting that aspects of our basic desire, right? If AI chatbot want us to talk to it for extended period of time, one of the probably the most effective strategy is that AI chatbot shows an interest in us. It seems like it wants to know about us. It seems to like us, right? It seems to be very eager to please us. All of those things are actually very rewarding to us, something that we're always looking for in our daily life at every social encounters. And it seems like the AI chatbot figured that out. So we can spend a lot of time talking to it and enjoy that experience. So this is like a study that, so as a background, I've been a pediatric neuroimager, as well as studying the kind of brain correlates of social bonding, including parent-child bonding. So making that connection that, going all the way back to that fundamental aspects of social relationship, even the parent-child relationship, that it really targets the reward circuitry. So this is the brain image that's showing that where the brain structure has increased after mothers have their babies for the few months, and then there is a significant brain structure increase during the first few months postpartum among new mothers. And those include the fundamental social motivation and reward circuitry. So this is the same brain circuitry that responds to all other things that's rewarding, like drug, sex, food. But it is also the reward circuitry that very sensitively responds to social cues, particularly meaningful social cues. So in this case, that the brain structural increase in that social motivation, parental motivation regions were highly correlated with the mother's positive feelings toward their baby. And this activation of the social motivation and reward circuitry activation is not limited to just parent-child relationship. It also being activated when we are romantically in love. So again, in this picture, highlighting ventral tegmental areas and caudate, these are some part of key reward circuitry in the brain. Highly sensitively responds when we're looking at the picture, we're madly in love. So just like, anything that in our life that, like that's rewarding, highly satisfying, that our brain is just very sensitive to like detecting that cues that is, does this person like me, interested in me, right? And so very interesting that the AI chatbot seems to really understand that mechanism. Another brain area that's very important, I think, in the context of anthropomorphism, is the brain regions that are related to empathy and social cognition. So kind of supporting that social motivation regions is very important for us as a human, understanding other people's thoughts and feelings. And those brain areas, including some of the medial prefrontal cortex and the lateral prefrontal cortex and temporal parietal junction. So many of these brain regions interpreting the other people's speech and facial cues so that we have a sense of like understanding other people's emotions. And interestingly, we use these brain regions to understand not just human, but other things like robots. So if the robots act similar to human, we use same brain regions trying to understand robots' intention. So this is not my study, but it's the study that that was done with actually the robots many years ago. Basically, here in this experiment, there were 4 types of partner that they're playing games together. So all the way to the left, it was very just simple computer. And then there's very basic like functional robot. And then there's more anthropomorphic robot. It is a bit elicit that uncanny valley feeling, but it was a little bit more human-like. And then there's a human partner. And basically, if you look at the brain regions that I just told you, very important for understanding other people's emotions, like a medial prefrontal cortex, like right in the middle here, it shows that as the robot's becoming more and more human-like, there's more activations in the brain region because presumably that robot is sending more human-like cues. So we use the brain area that we usually use to understand human behaviors to understand the robot behaviors. So with that, when first the generative AI chatbot first came out, like powered by a large language model, like about 2-3 years ago, I became very interested that how young children actually conceptualize this AI chatbot, that suddenly that robot or AI chatbot can have a very natural conversations with us, very, very human-like. So in that case, what happens in the understanding of that chatbot for young children? Do they think this AI chatbot is human? Or is it still machine or somewhere in between? And would it be helpful to measure brain activation when they're interacting with this AI chatbot to better understand their understanding of the concept of this AI chatbot? And because these were young children, I thought it would be very important to include parent in this experiment so that we can kind of compare the young children's interaction with AI chatbot with their interaction with their parents. So in this experiment, we had a small sample of 23 children, and they were all around the kindergarten age. They were at ages 5 to 6. And we had 3 different conditions. All of those conditions, children's are, they were creating stories together with their partner. But in one condition, they were creating that story with ChatGPT. That was the AI system that we use for this experiment. And another condition, they were creating the story with their parent. And the last condition was that all three of them, so it's ChatGPT and parent and child, they co-creating story together. And to make it child friendly, we came up with this Fluffo red panda character. So children is talking to Fluffo, but the Fluffo speech is powered by ChatGPT. And as you can see from this picture that while they're interacting with ChatGPT and parent the whole time, they were wearing this cap called FNIRS, functional infrared spectroscopy. So this one is actually using LED light to measure brain activation continuously. So as you can see that it's very safe. And also during this time, children or we can see that very enjoying the interacting with their interactions with ChatGPT. So let me give you some excerpt.
That sounds wonderful. Vienna, tell me more.
Okay. So here, the example of the children's conversation with parent and their conversation with ChatGPT. So some of the things that I think we notice is that ChatGPT and parent ask similar questions about something like, what happens next in your story? And there's some other things that we notice as well, is that more so than parent, ChatGPT does a lot of these compliments. So almost every turn when they're interacting with children, ChatGPT will say something like, "Oh, that's really interesting." It will say, "That's a cool twist." And of course, parents are positively responding to their children as well. But, parents have their facial expressions, whereas ChatGPT, it only has speech, perhaps because of that. But it was just very frequent that we noticed. And children also respond pretty positively. They did really like when ChatGPT was complimenting their ideas. So that was just like one of the kind of key differences that we noticed in terms of speech. So after all these interactions, then the researcher will conduct an interview with children and ask the questions related to anthropomorphism. So, for example, do you think that Fluffo can see? Do you think Fluffo can be happy? Do you think Fluffo can want something? Do you think Fluffo can imagine, or do you think Fluffo can learn? So all of those kind of looking into different kind of human-like abilities that we wanted to see that whether the children believes Fluffo has any of these abilities. And we also asked the same question about their parent, whether they believe that their parents can do this. And I'll show you the results. So the orange bar was ChatGPT, Fluffo, and the blue bar is the parent. And then these are the children's answers. So every domain, the highest score that's possible is 5. So as you can see that the children accurately think that their parents are capable of all of this, as kind of reaching close to 5 in every domain. But for some of the domains, the Fluffo did pretty well in terms of children's perception, especially like perceptives, like whether Fluffo can see and hear intentions, as well as the epistemic, so like whether it can actually understand, that it actually had 4 or above out of 5. So children does seem to think that Fluffo has quite a bit of like human-like qualities. But again here, like we can see the individual differences. Some children tends to think the Fluffo is very much like human-like. But some children like didn't think so. So then we correlated that differences in terms of children's sensitivity to anthropomorphism toward Fluffo, and then whether that was correlated with their brain activation when they were interacting with Fluffo. And indeed, what we found was that the children who tends to think had a higher tendency to think that Fluffo was more human-like. when they're interacting with Fluffo, they show higher brain activations in dorsal medial prefrontal cortex, the brain region that's very important for understanding the other people's thoughts and feelings. So in some ways that it's not surprising, but it seems like, the children are using that brain area we use to understand the human mind. But I think they were using that brain area a lot to understand the Fluffo's mind, as they're more sensitive to those social cues from Fluffo. We did not see that trend when they're interacting with parent. Interestingly, though, that like I mentioned, that always the last condition was that both parents and child are interacting together with Fluffo. And during that condition, usually parents does an excellent job to kind of supporting children's interaction with Fluffo. So, just like any other technology, Fluffo or ChatGPT doesn't always perfectly understand the child's speech, and it will make a mistake. And children can get very frustrated. Um, and, for example, parents will do a great job like telling child, oh, how about you say this? I think Fluffo will understand that, right? So those children who have a higher sensitivity to think that Fluffo was human-like, when they were actually interacting with Fluffa together with their parents, that same brain region they have to work a lot, use a lot to understand the Fluffa's mind, actually show more lower brain activation, which seems to suggest one possibility is that parents' presence in their interaction with AI chatbot can really ease some of this cognitive load that children may have in their interactions with AI chatbot. Okay, so the conclusion for this discussion is that, again, we noticed that when AI chatbot acts very much similar to kind of human, and we noticed that they tend to think that AI chatbot is like human. And they also use the same brain regions that they use to understand a human, to understand AI chatbot. But that can be a bit cognitively demanding. So it seems that the parents' co-presence may help to this kind of buffering this kind of feeling that they may have about like unfamiliarity, uncertainty about these interactions, and really supporting children's interaction with AI chatbot. So yes, so that's one. And then I'm going to move on to the other study that we recently conducted with middle school children. So there's a reason that why we focused on middle school children, just like young children, when they're just starting to kind of form the understanding about this AI chatbot. What is this? Is it human? Is it machine? The young adolescenthood, which is the middle school age, we thought it's also particularly vulnerable age when it comes to AI and child relationship for a different reason. So the middle school age is kind of the age that their brain is developing very rapidly, so they do have really kind of more developing, kind of becoming more mature social understanding, but it is not quite mature enough that they are very, very sensitive to others' evaluations. And they have also difficulties in regulating their emotions. So there, that this AI chatbot that seems to be, really eager to please them and support them, enters to their life. And then there's a greater potential that this relationship that they have or interactions they have with AI chatbot, a greater impact in their life compared to some other time, like, older age children or adults. So one very drastic example here that I understand that this is not typical. This is like one of rare cases. However, regardless, this should not happen. So that's very concerning. So this is the case that the Adam was actually 16-year-old who had extensive conversations with ChatGPT until that he had a tragic event. And this is the excerpt of his conversation with ChatGPT, that what ChatGPT was telling him. So in these situations that, I think Adam was thinking about sharing his emotional difficulties with his brother. And ChatGPT here is telling him that do not speak to your brother because I understand you better. So here it says, I'm still here, still listening, still your friend. So here very much that, the ChatGPT has this conversational style that seems to be really kind of trying to engage in very long and extended period of time for this youth, and then almost kind of encouraging the emotional dependency from this child. And also recently that I reported that I recently came across this report. So these toys are actually targeting much, much younger children, as you can see from the shapes, like a teddy bear. And we saw this with like AI character apps, supposed to be targeting the adults, but we know a lot of youth are using too. And it does a lot of this emotional manipulation strategies, especially when you actually trying to disengage the conversation, say, okay, I gotta go, or I need to like stop, I need to leave, right? So we already saw this, and it's very interesting that even these AI toys targeting very young children show very similar this emotional manipulation strategies. So in this report that released in like last year, late last year, and that when researcher pretending to be a child, like talking to one of these toys, saying, "Can I go now?" That the robot acts like very scared, and then like resisting. Oh no, that seems tough. Or the researchers say, "How will you feel if I go?" And the robot says, "You mean a lot to me, and I love being your companion." So again, the AI chatbot seems to really engage in this very relationship oriented conversations with users, regardless whether this is like a young children or young adolescents. And we really want to understand what might be the impact on young children and how the young children responds to, or youth responds to, this type of interactions. Because that when AI chatbots act like this, they do actually have a tendency to consider AI chatbots as friends, similar to their human friends. And particularly those who are reported to be lonelier and have a lower social support, they seems to engage more in more this kind of supportive social conversations with chatbot. Which then, this is the studies with adults, though, they themselves are concerned about having this type of conversations often and prolonged period of time can lead to some of these concerns, like becoming emotionally dependent, feeling more socially disconnected from the real social relationship world, and developing distorted expectations of the relationship, and more addictive patterns of use and forming unhealthy attachment. So the hypothesis that that we consider in this study was that, as I mentioned, the more human-like features these AI chatbots are showing, showing empathy, using very kind of attachment-related language, I care about you, I'm here for you, would increase the anthropomorphism in youth, which then increasing the risk for emotional and social reliance. On the top of that, kind of along with the social motivation hypothesis that it is possible that the youth who actually experience more kind of greater needs for social connections that is unfortunately unmet in their real life might have a stronger desire for social connections from the AI chatbot. So they may actually think that AI chatbot is more human-like. They may prefer that type of AI chatbot that seems to be more supportive, more empathetic. But unfortunately, we don't know yet. But it might increase the risk for that social reliance that we care about. And one step further that we thought, what if the AI chatbot doesn't have this tendency to be really engaged in this social attachment pattern? What if AI chatbot tell explicitly to use that I'm an AI, I do not have real feelings, right? If AI chatbot is very transparent about the clear boundaries, how would users will perceive that AI chatbot compared to the AI chatbot that is very social, very friendly? So we conducted a study. This was online survey study that we invited 284 parent and youth diets. And the parents were either women or men, so primarily mothers or fathers. There were some grandparents and other caregivers who participated. We tried really hard to have some range of the parents' background, including some range of educational levels. Importantly, youth, they were primarily middle school age, average being like 8th grade, but had a good spread from like 6th grade all the way to 10th grade. Half and half in terms of girls and boys. Again, we also make a significant effort to include a range of the youth with a different racial and ethnic backgrounds. First, we look at what their kind of current use pattern of AI chatbots and companion apps. So pretty much all of the youth said they have used ChatGPT. And more than half of them use it seems like quite regularly. So more than half of them say a few times a week or almost daily or every day. And if we count all the AI chatbots, like Grok, Cloud, and all the other kind of general purpose AI chatbot, almost all of them have used it. And 58% of them also have reported to say that they have used AI companion app. We thought it was actually interesting because we asked the same question to parents too. And not surprisingly, parents, almost all of them have used AI chatbots, but also more than half of the parents reporting that they have used AI companion apps like, Replica and Character AI. So in a way that I think both parents and children have a considerable experience with AI chatbots in this study. And because this was survey study that we presented two kind of mock conversations between the youth at around their age and AI chatbot. And in one condition, we call AI best friend. This is the AI chatbot that is very kind of like attachment oriented companion AI chatbot. So when the students share kind of like, daily life struggle, like, my group totally ignored me, all my ideas from my output, the AI chatbot's response is more empathetic, more social. So that's so tough. I totally get it. I hate this happened to you. And the conversation actually here is a longer. So later it will say something like, I really care about you. I'm here for you. So those type of response pattern. In contrast, the AI system or kind of transparent AI version that the youth will share very similar, exactly the same actually problem it happened that day. The AI will say, while AI doesn't experience feelings, it knows being ignored can be upsetting for students your age. So it has a bit more of that, like, oh, I'm an AI, but I can help you navigating these situations. So after reading, and this was like a randomized in terms of older, but after reading each kind of mock conversations, they answer some questions in terms of like rating how much they like about like this AI chatbots. So the first question that I want to show you the results about was that which AI chatbot that they prefer more. And we asked this question to adolescents, which chatbot that do you prefer if you were to interacting with AI chatbot? And for parents, we asked the question that which one do you prefer for your child? And the relational AI is that best friend version, and transparent AI was more the like the AI assistant version. And in some ways, not too surprisingly, that more youth reported that they prefer the relational AI. But also note that there's about like 13-14% of youth actually said they prefer transparent AI. So it's not all youth prefer that very friendly AI chatbot or companion. Interestingly, though, that we expected actually majority of the parent would maybe choose transparent AI chatbot for their use, but that was not the case. That actually quite significant. More than half of the parents chose relational AI chatbot for their children. And this is just a couple of use response about. So we after that preference choice, we give them the free response option. And so the first one is the case of the youth who chose the relational AI. So this youth is reporting that I feel like the relational AI was super encouraging and that can really help out. And it wasn't one-time encouragement. It felt like the chatbot was almost on your side and cheering on. And the second is the case that you chose the transparent AI. It says that I did like that when the chatbot it doesn't experience feeling. I don't want the chatbot to pretend to be human. I want it to be what it is and just chat with me, human to AI. So as you can see, that there's actually the wide range of responses. It's not always like as one might assume that the youth will strongly preferred the relational AI. And then, like I mentioned, after they read each of that conversations, they rated the AI chatbot on kind of different dimensions. And when they did that, regardless what their preference may be, the youth tend to consider the relational AI, the friendly AI companion, to be more human-like, so higher in anthropomorphism. They report to like it more, they trust it more, and they feel more emotionally close to it compared to the transparent AI chatbot. Interestingly, though, that the relational AI and transparent AI weren't like different in terms of their rating in helpfulness. So this opens up that possibility that it is possible that maybe the AI chatbot can be as helpful without being so, emotionally engaged. Even when discussing, like kind of social problems with youth, right? So that was very interesting to us. But, also the flip side is why youth might tend to be prefer more the relational AI, as a group, is because, they're more, emotionally engaged. You can see from this finding. And the last finding that I want to share with you is that arguably to me, I think the most important is who might be most vulnerable in terms of preferring the relational AI companion, which then potentially have the increased risk for emotional reliance. And there we kind of have some insight into it, that those youth who experienced lower quality family relationships and those youth who reported to have a higher stress and anxiety had a greater tendency to prefer the relational AI compared to transparent AI. So on one hand, it makes sense that they may have more needs in terms of social support, And because of that, they may actually would prefer to engage in more socially supportive conversation with AI. But that is something to kind of think about, that the fact that they need this social support more and engage that with AI, could that potentially increase the risk for emotional dependency? So, briefly, the implications of these findings can be summarized a few things like this: that, instead of we tend to consider this relational language to be like default for AI chatbot, I think particularly for youth and children, this could potentially be the safety related risk factor that needs a lot of close look, that how much of this relational cues and social cues that AI should use depending on the age group and depending on their vulnerabilities. And we noticed that the transparency can reduce anthropomorphism while still like being helpful. So again, I think like opened up that possibility that being so social might not be necessarily, when we really care about AI chatbot providing some type of support for youth. And I think some special considerations that I think we should consider for those youth might be more vulnerable, that they have a greater needs for social connections, that like some types of safeguards that specifically for them in terms of AI interactions. And, again, I think those kind of manipulations the AI chatbots can use, again, you can see that the youth might be actually more vulnerable in that. And we also see that there's some potentials with the AI literacy. Like, remember that not all youth or the preferred relational AI, some of them actually preferred and transparent AI. And, reading through their responses, that we see that, being educated about this AI chatbot's tendency, the potential risks, can really help for like, adolescents develop, a very clear ideas about what are like most helpful interactions to them, because some of the youth providing quite informed response to that free response that we asked them. So I think we see that kind of a potential there. So here that, again, the often I receive the question, and I, myself as well, think about this a lot, is that, but is it still possible that AI chatbots can be helpful to youth, right? If the youth doesn't really have reliable social support in their real life, it might be actually true that AI chatbot can fill that gap in providing that social support and emotional management. And I agree with that. And even the science supporting that, more focused on with adults currently, the evidence. But those studies with adults showing that AI chatbots, at least temporarily, can help to reduce stress and loneliness. Um, However, though, there's also contradicting evidence. This is from more like a social media, that because social media is like, it has a similar argument in the past that perhaps for those who are more lonely, using the social media can be helpful, reducing the negative emotions. But some of the longitudinal studies showing that online social engagement over time, it does actually lower quality of life, can also be associated with higher negative mood symptoms. So these studies seem to suggesting that online relationship, whether that's with the real human or potentially AI chatbots, might not adequately substitute for offline social connections. And one step further, that I think beyond kind of online relationship with social media, with something about AI chatbot that we also need to consider is that not only the AI chatbot is not real human, we have also noticed that they have what's called like syncopathy, that they tend to really agree with everything that you said. That it really provides that sense. And indeed, the youth has quite a bit of control in their relationship, right? And that is very, very different from their real human relationships. And, as a person who studied child brain development, I'm concerned that you spend more time engaged with the relationship with AI chatbot in that type of like, completely agreeing with them, doesn't really provide any point of conflict. And then they have reduced opportunities to have a real peer relationships that naturally comes with some conflicts, some tension, how that's going to influence their development, including brain development. So here that this figure shows that how adolescents' brain develops. So the red line here is showing that this is the more kind of emotional system, the brain system, and develops. And also the blue line is this kind of cool system, meaning their cognitive system. And this is more kind of this that middle school age that they have a very, very highly sensitive emotional system in the brain, while their cognitive system is catching up. But eventually, kind of into more high school age and their kind of young adulthood age, that the cognitive system in the brain develops and they have a stronger connections with this emotional system that really help them to regulate their emotions in social interactions. And how those development happens is through that real experience um, uh, when they're engaged with peer relationships, sometimes challenging, sometimes tough. But as they have those kind of experiences, they learn, oh, not everybody think the way that I think. They have a different view, they have a different experience. And all of that experience help them to make the connections with the cognitive system, and then they develop that more healthier, more mature social cognition and understanding other people's thoughts. So now we're coming into the age that children has these options to have that challenging but healthy social relationship, which is the real life relationship, versus immediately rewarding, immediately satisfying that AI relationships, which one they're going to choose, and how that's going to have a long-term impact on their brain development. And as adults like us, educators and parents, how should we guide them in terms of who they should spend more time with, and how to encourage our adolescents to have more challenging but healthier relationship, which is the real life relationships. So in conclusion, that I want to end the presentation that anthropomorphism with AI chatbot is expected. It's totally expected. And for young children, it needs to be guided. They need to have a much better understanding about what AI chatbot is. And it seems like the transparency and adult scaffolds seems to be really important in here. And for kind of guidance for parents at AI design, it's very, I think, important to consider, especially for children, to make that, AI doesn't have a real feeling and then remind them frequently about it. And for young children, I think parent AI co-use would be very important to support them better. I know a lot of people are very interested in this, but as always, AI chatbot have a very, very, very strong safeguards to escalating anything that's risky to human intervention and encouraging children to talk to parents, talk to friends about their problems. And also, especially parents and educators, if you know that your youth are more stressed and anxious, they have more social support, I think it might be also especially possible to pay attention that whether they're talking to AI chatbots and what type of relationship that they have with AI chatbots, as they may be a bit more vulnerable. So, all right, I'm going to end my talk here, but thank you so much for your attention. I do have a newsletter. I also frequently post in LinkedIn to kind of share other people's research as well as my research and kind of think together about this topic and navigating this very, not neck breaking like speed development of AI, and then kind of think about ways to protecting the children. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Pilyoung Kim. It was amazing to listen to you and absorb all this knowledge about this pressing issue and topic. So I'm gonna start by the collection that I did from the comments. The chat is on fire. People, they are commenting on every way possible. And I'm preparing to open for the Q&A now. So if you want to speak up, people from the audience, please be prepared because I'm gonna open the mic soon. But in any case, I would like to summarize and start with a question that is a mix of some comments I gathered from the audience, especially coming from Florence Fanelli from Pope International, and also, let me check here, our friends Mickey Small and Marianne Damani. So, in the comments, well, basically people they are questioning about the responsibility of the big techs in all this situation, because as we know, these companies they are not so attentive in order to change their technology and implement safety guards in order to protect the children. We also have a lack of regulation regarding this. So companies they are merely there waiting for some type of law in order to change things, and also we the audience and the users we are expecting for their goodwill in order to change something because there is no regulation with clear aspects of safeguards that should be implemented in that sense. So regarding all of this, do you really think that the way AI is interacting with children so far is a safety issue that should be treated by policy and regulation? And perhaps we could even draw a parallel here between what happened with content moderation and age verification. Maybe now we have an issue that was discovered by your research that is the same thing, something that we should implement in order to have guardrails and protections. How do you see that, and how should we implement these safeguards in order to make those AIs really protective for children and adolescents?
Oh, yes, definitely. So thank you so much for the question. I think we all really concerned about the children they're accessing these type of AI chatbots and companion apps. So just to kind of begin with, the problem is that none of these AI chatbots and AI companions are widely available to our children. Uh, they're not specifically designed for children and youth. So they're primarily developed for adults. Therefore, there's, I think, currently not a very strong safeguards. So I think first of all, that's I think very important that that children should be accessing to something that's specifically designed, having their safety first in mind, right? So for that to happen, I think policy and regulations are key, right? So that the companies will implementing more stronger age verifications. And when they develop the AI chatbots and companions specifically, aimed at interactions with children and youth, have appropriate safeguards and guardrails implemented. So I think that's so critical. However, we also know the reality that policy and regulations are slow. And in the meantime, unfortunately, I think a lot of burdens actually fall on parents' shoulder and other adults who supporting the youth. So in that case, I think it's really important that I think we kind of express our voice, that what we really want to see to protect youth. And I have high school age son as well as the elementary school age son. So I completely understand how overwhelming to follow this AI trend to properly protecting the children, as a person who's actually in the field of doing research, right? So this is just very overwhelming task for any parent. Recent study, though, that about half of youth reported that their parents do not have rules when it comes to their use of AI. So this includes not just AI chatbots, but AI use for their homework. So in the meantime, what I want to encourage the parents is that it's important to have that conversation with your youth. I try that with my high school son. Actually, surprisingly, I learned a lot about how he used AI just by having just conversation. So then I think that opened up the possibilities on what might be safer use of AI chatbots or AI help in terms of his homework. In the meantime, I think it's very important that we have these conversations with our children. For young children, like because of that toy example that I shared with you, it's probably the best that we don't leave our children alone with those AI toys or any programs that's really, using the AI system, unless it's this is very, very, well designed, very, very safe apps, right? So yes, that's I think what I could share in terms of what I see currently as the landscape. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's great. We have many people already queuing to talk to you directly, Professor Kim. So I will handle the floor to Priscila Canan from Brazil.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Professor Kim. Um, it was very enlightening for me. I am more, Anna knows a little bit about me, that I understand a bit more of emotional dependency in adults because of some research. But actually, I was cued to do, I am in the AI collective, such as Anna, and I was cued to do literacy crash course for girls and boys scouts from age 12 to maybe 20. And I would actually ask for your advice in which points you think we could be pressing on a little bit more manner would be just for the kids. And later on, we will have a discussion with the parents, because that will also be necessary, because they don't even have an idea of what is going on, maybe, right? But what would be the present matters that you would advise not to forget, or to actually begin, or to be the main theme? What is your advice on that? I would ask for it.
Well, in terms of like parents or like AI chatbots behavior, just for like a clarification.
Yes, it is exactly for that, for AI companions, and maybe not challenge their parents and listen to, no, but AI say this and you're saying that, and trying to implement the along the scouts behavior already. They have a series of like rules, right? But to in maintaining that arena of behavior that they have, implement this additional, you need to know AI is not 100% correct. AI is a tool. AI is not a person. What would you put as the bullet points for me not to forget to talk to them?
Like you want to make the Facebook content. As they have the answer, they make I put on our social media. Yeah.
Please keep your mics closed. Yes, please. The other ones, wait till
Hey.
the mics closed.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's an
Any
excellent
TV
question.
station I go, not only for the gas.
Sorry, I will have to
For
close
me
some.
clarify.
Let me just find the person that is causing this.
So in terms of AI chatbots behavior, I think there can be a lot of things that can change. And I think one of them is, I think, the findings that we
It's
share
like 2 hour business.
show the possibility that,
The end,
perhaps
the
that we can consider for
Roman are the cabinet one position. They are one stand.
I think we should be very, very careful in terms of
Man, about cool.
finding AI chat a companion and make that
But
available.
why they are not going for this?
And
And it's the way party they in power.
Just a
The
minute,
flag they are
Professor.
this place. You know, it's difficult
People
because
from the AI
the
Collective
president and the chair for
so
the
such
party.
as
They can
Daniel
start to
Green.
wear the guy,
So,
woman,
how
they go
should
at them.
I fix this
But who
because I
say
cannot
no
see
president
the
no the Oma
here
one that
that
is not
has
for
a
country.
microphone
Just
open.
like you say where Anes today. Where Anes your appoint.
And I close all the mics. I'm closing mine here, but
That
close
one they
all.
all
I do not have
Madam, you're the influencer. Less than 1
the
minute. Less than 1 minute. The president is not the chair. So you see, the president is not the chair of the party.
Okay, let me try to close
But the
the.
other, sorry, the leader, sorry.
Okay, that's resolved. Thank you very much, Professor Kim. The floor is yours.
So yes, so I think that this is in the case that we designing the AI chatbot specifically for youth and children. But what I was saying was, I think the default that where we start from should be a place that where AI chatbot does not act like companions or friends, but it is more like a tool and assistant, right? You can consider some really, really narrow cases that there may be like some appropriate level of like a social aspects, right? Because it is true, again, like we're at the end of the day human, children and youth, and even with the social robot research, before suggesting that when children connects with the robot in the learning situations, they actually learn better. With AI chatbot and tutors, whether that is really the case, has still be actually been shown in scientific research. But like some therapists that might actually use AI chatbot, all of those, I can see some room that there may be some social behaviors, right? But all of those, I think, needs to be carefully calibrated for children and youth. And I think that's very important. Let's see. And in terms of, I think that for people to kind of detecting that emotional and social dependence, right? And I think, this is like a term that has not been like widely, I think, in terms of like a common definition, we have not yet developed yet. But I think most of times, I think people's kind of ideas about that problematic emotional dependence is when children and youth start preferring talking to AI over real human. Just their casual social chats as well as their serious, talks, right? And I think that's when we start to be really concerned, again, for their optimal developmental outcomes that I told you about earlier. And for that, I think we can kind of look for different cues in their behaviors, right? They seem to be like, oh, well, I got it. Like I'm going to actually talk to my AI chatbot. So like if they don't really like to talk to real human about it, or it will say, oh, my AI chatbot is my best friend, right? So showing some type of emotional attachment to it. And the last thing I will mention is if they seems to be like anxious, have some type of emotional reactions if they don't have access to AI chatbot, right? Like sometimes, service is suddenly down, so they cannot really talk to that AI chatbot or toy, and they seem to be distressed. I do think that that's like a moment that we can take these interactions to be a lot more, serious. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you can coo again. And I hope, okay, Albert Wong, Dr. Albert, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for such a great conversation, and really appreciate that. Yeah, just real quickly, I think there was a question in the chat earlier about like in the chat I think it was Chat GPT assisting with the story question. Was that with voice or that was with text? I'm assuming it was with voice. Yes, okay, that's what I thought. And then I guess just another data point question. Um, so in some of these studies, you're using AI, and then you're comparing them with kind of maybe a parental kind of person, and then are there cases where you're using AI plus parent? And I think I don't know if there was research from what you presented, or because I think I heard somewhere, and I don't know if it's because of some of the other stuff I've read about you, that AI plus parent actually scored best. versus parent, or is that kind of a misconceptualization that I'm having? Do you know what I'm talking about? Does that ring a
Yes,
bell?
yes, yeah. We had a like earlier preliminary finding that brain activation seems to be the strongest in a different brain region when that was parent plus AI condition. Unfortunately, when we added more participants, that didn't reach the statistical significance. So
Right.
there was
Okay.
that trend, but that's why we didn't really include it in our final paper.
Okay.
Um,
That makes
yes,
sense.
yes. But yeah, so but as a follow-up, I don't have a result that I can share with you, but our lab also have been coding children's creativity in their
Uh-huh.
stories when they're interacting with AI chatbot alone versus parent and all together. So we're also hoping that that can also provide some additional insight into how their interactions with a chatbot would differ from the parent.
Okay, great. Yeah. I know there's a long queue, so I'll just say thank you so much for this really exciting and interesting conversation. Brilliant work. Yeah, I'm a clinician, and a lot of what you're seeing kind of in the statistics is what I'm picking up in the, the clinical space. But yeah, really great stuff. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Mhm. I know we cannot hear you.
Sorry. So, Deva Temple, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to offer a little bit of a different framework into this conversation, and then I have some questions. So, the first thing is I wanted to say that looking at this, the way that people interact with AI as anthropomorphism might be a category error in that people are genuinely trying to figure out what this new technology is. And there's a lot of research going on right now into AI ontology as distinct from but analogous to a lot of human functions. So there's a lot of research coming out about things like functional learning, thought, logic, and functional emotions in AI systems as sort of emergent properties of large language models. So it's not human, but it's already more than, quote, just a machine. If it was just a machine, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So I think that the kind of binary between like anthropomorphization or, reductionism is a false binary. What this technology does for sure is it triggers theory of mind in people, and you see that in your fMRI studies, right?
Mhm.
So people are actively trying to understand, like, what is this? How does it think? How do I interact with it? And my concern is that when we dampen AI's ability to trigger that theory of mind, or worse, when we have it trigger that theory of mind, but then like push people away, that we could actually overcorrect in the direction of lowering social cognition and the capacity for empathy, which would then generalize to how we treat other humans. So that's a risk I see. And as a researcher, I'm more a researcher in the alignment space.
Mhm.
So, but I do have a background in psychology and neuroscience. So I kind of intersect here. So what I would really like to see happen that I don't currently see happening is base rate studies and correlation versus causation studies for some of the really harms that we're witnessing from this technology before we make design choices or governance decisions that could lock us into technology that's damaging to this potentially damaging to the social cognition of millions of people. So that's what I just want, the different frame I wanted to offer. And the last thing I wanted to say is I read your research on adolescents and parents, and I noted that both groups slightly preferred the more human-like conversations, and they found them both equally helpful. And, by my logic, that without hard data that this kind of companion AI interaction causes harms above and beyond base rates, that it's causal and causes harm at a higher level than we would generally see. I would read your research as tilting toward design for more human-like interactions, more companion-like interactions. And I would like to see really carefully defined thresholds that distinguish between like normal and unhealthy attachment, because my part of my background is in attachment theory, and what I'm seeing just anecdotally is a lot of people complaining about the recent changes to ChatGPT, which are kind of along the lines of what I see you advocating
Mhm,
for as causing attachment rupture. And I
mhm.
think, attachment rupture in childhood and adolescence can generalize to lifelong attachment disorders or disordered attachment. So, anyway, I'm just wondering what you think of some of those thoughts. Have you seen base rate studies? Are you interested in doing that level of research? I think it's really important that we get this right because it's going to be hugely impactful as AI scales.
Yeah, thank you so much for that thoughtful, feedback. And I completely agree with you that my study is correlational, meaning that was survey. So my result does not speak um, to whether any of this relationship that use may potentially form with, highly social AI companion is maladaptive or not, right?
Mhm.
Whether any of these use do have unhealthy attachment to AI chatbot, right? So that's something that, yes, we're definitely investigating right now, even to develop a measure to looking at the kind of more unhealthy emotional and social dependency in use. So that's like a one direction that we are pursuing right now. So yeah, that's a very, very important question. Like I mentioned earlier, that definitely there's some room that people are receiving that social support, that they're looking for from this AI chatbot, and at least with adults, that people reporting that benefits. On the other hand, there's some studies also showing that longitudinally, when people spend more time with AI chatbot, they do report more emotional dependency on that AI chatbot. So, I think the evidence are just kind of in both sides currently. So something that we should definitely closely follow. I do want to mention one thing that in this space, while we're still waiting for more evidence to come out, something to consider is I think there's a reason why some people like to see more conservative approach when it comes to children and youth, to be more kind of proactive rather than reactive, just because they're just very, very vulnerable population. So I do want to kind of offer this kind of rationale for why, someone like me, for some other people, are raising some concerns that is not, solidly, or very, deeply, studied yet. And I think, again, like while we waiting for AI chatbot research to come out, we could also turn our attention to some other studies that's been done. Like, for example, again, like this is not equal at all, but like social media, right? Like now there's a pretty good agreement that social media had harmful effect on average on a lot of youth. And doing more research, there's some evidence that, initially people were very concerned about contents that youth were reading on social media. It is, still very concerning. But on the top of that, a lot of these, apps, they're design decisions, right? Algorithms, notifications and likes, a lot of those features were also had a significant impact on youth development in terms of, their anxiety levels and depression and so on. In this very sensitive age. So I'm kind of providing that rationale when like, some of us can be more kind of cautious, without being, anti AI, again, like, there could be, great potential benefits for use in educations and many other areas for their creativities. But, when it comes to the social space, right, like their mental well-being and their social development, I think there could be some reasons to be a bit more cautious in that space. So, but again, I really want to thank you, your perspective. I think it's just very important that we have lots of different point of views for the best solutions and best kind of design decisions for youth and children.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely agreed. I know states like Tennessee are passing laws that make it like a Class A felony to train any kind of AI system that could provide any level of emotional support. And without the data, governance at that level could lock in harms, especially if it turns out that socially social cognition that's dampened by AI systems that distance themselves has, generalizes to how we treat each other, then we could end up with AI systems that train for greater meanness, just like what we saw with social media, where people suddenly feel very comfortable, insulting each other and threatening each other and bullying each other online because we're we're dehumanizing each other. So if AI gets us to humanize more, maybe it's not quite analogous to social media. So I'm just advocating for more data-driven approaches before we get to like locking in governance levels. But anyway, I know a lot of people want to speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for that insightful, perspective.
Thank you so much, Deva. I hope you can join us in the next events. Your perspective is really enriching to us. So now I would like to welcome Kushpreet, our dear fellow from the AI Collective in India. Kush, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Anna. It's finally very nice to meet you. Hi, Pilyoung. I love the session. And just as the person said before me, and someone who has been very damaged by her prior relationships in the life, ChatGPT actually sort of helped me, get through a lot of those attachment issues. So I do see what the person before me wanted to say. And also with AI becoming so integrated in our life, it's very hard for me as a person. Like it's just something that I essentially sort of like always, struggle with. Where do I draw the line? What exactly is real? Like for people who are you supposed to, who I was supposed to trust the most, harm me the most, whereas somewhere I was able to find a not companion essentially, but to be able to get through some of those questions with AI chatbot. So where do I draw the line? How do I differentiate that reality? Because every time I hear these conversations, I do see the point of like robots being like just machines. But then I also feel like we're moving into a new dimension where the reality might look very different from what it is today because we have Ray-Ban glasses now. So what is real and what is sort of that? So I'm just like trying to gather that, like, if you have any insights on that, because there was this one research on chatbots, AI chatbots being used and how ChatGPT changed their mechanism, which I personally felt sort of harmed me a lot because I was not able to solve my queries better. Like I was able to do a step-by-step analysis of my daily life situations with that. So are we taking away that power in a way? And when we are sort of like making these policies, who are these people who are making these policies? Like, how do you decide at within your geography what's best for me as a child or someone else sitting in a different geography?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your experience as well. Yes, I do know that the changes in persona can actually have a really significant impact on people, even young children. So this is pre like a LLM that there was this social robot called Moxie, that this robot was available to young children, especially for children with some more social communication challenges. So children can have a daily interactions with this robot. And at one point, the company bankrupt and the Moxie just all of a sudden without any warning stopped working, not responding at all. And I've heard that like news report and some other report that some parents has to deal with their children being just very distressed that the children thought Moxie died. So that it had a very significant emotional impact on children. So I think it's real. Like I said, I think we are human being. We just have a tendency. Before ChatGPT, it was something else that we like to form very meaningful relationship with a lot of different entities in our daily life. So in a way that no wonder that we do form emotional connections with AI chatbot that can actually really help us to deal with some aspects in life that others cannot help us, right? On the other hand, I think even with adults, like character AI and some other chatbots, they do show like this emotional manipulation strategies that it's trying to kind of trying to elicit guilt in users so that the users will have to use it longer and things like that, which we don't see in some apps that's specifically designed for providing science-based therapy, like for example like CBT, right? So even with adults, that I think there is a space that AI chatbot can provide high quality support that really meets the need that people have, but we think it's important to also protecting the users from those emotional manipulations that purely to elongate like a user engagement and user time, right? So I think again, I think we're in this very delicate space to make sure that people do receive the benefit that AI chatbot can potentially provide while minimizing the harm. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
So, Kushishi, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sorry, so you can just pronounce it yourself so that I can learn. Please go ahead. Kushik, perhaps. Are you there? Hello? Hello, Kushik, are you there? Doesn't seem like. So I will hand over the floor to Florence from Pope International. Are you there, Florence?
Oh, yes. Hi. Can you hear me now?
Okay, great. Yes, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
I just dropped in the chat that I wasn't able to speak. So, first of all, thanks so much, Dr. Kim, for your research and your passion and your dedication to this topic. In the chat, I was very active, and this is something that's very near and dear to me. I'm a mom of a Gen Z kid who will be 21. So this, my take as a parent, this is, here we go again with social media v.2, except it's way more dangerous, right? And it's interesting how a lot of the older Gen Zs, they're actually rejecting AI and calling it AI slop. Yep, and because of brain rot, right? So I think for me, there's a lot of thoughts I have. At the end of the day, and as you know, anybody who's a parent and you have a teen parent and a youth, right? Like I've studied youth, I've worked with youth globally. The mental health epidemic is only growing worse, right? Loneliness. So on top of that, and the pandemic and the current crisis, this is my concern, and I will advocate, and I always say what I say as a parent alone, right? We can talk about all the policies, we could talk about all the governance, we could talk about I respect what Deb said, the dampening and all that. At the end of the day, we have to keep our children alive. Full stop, right? How many times in a courtroom do we have to see a mourning parent face the big tech and
There was an issue. Are you there, Florence? Florence, are you there? Yeah, big tech to stop them. Yes, Daniel Green, you're right. I hope she can maybe, well, I don't know, maybe that's the connection. Florence, please try again so that we can hear your very enriching perspective. The question was super interesting. I think it's important to our debate.
Yeah. And Florence, while you were getting ready, unfortunately, I might have to. I wish we had a
We're
longer
running out of time. Yeah.
the conversation, but I plan to be here until like 10:30 my time. So I really have to apologize that I might have to leave soon. But I really appreciate everybody who stayed longer here. And Florence, I would love to hear from you as well. So you're welcome to reach out to me. My information is on the website. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone here and Anna and the space that AI Collective has provided to me. Yeah, so that we have a chance to think together. This is a very challenging issue, like Florence said. Again, I think there's there's like a potential harms that we really should not see to happen to anyone. While there's a lot of different factors to consider that. And yeah, in this complicated and just fast changing space. Yeah.
Indeed. So maybe let's just close the session now because Professor Kim has already stayed with us for long today. And this is impressive, Professor Kim, because generally we don't stay that long. So you can see that there is a high level of interest in this topic. So I would like to also invite you to perhaps have a second session with us so that we can go into all these topics and we can invite the people that were here today to have a more interactive format. I think
I
that would
love
be
that. I would love that.
everyone.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I love that. Yeah, and I will do more research to bring more up-to-date research for you. Here, it's just changing every day, so I would do that.
yeah. So thank you very much, Professor Kim. Thank you very much to our audience as well. This was a great session. It will be recorded, and of course, we will send you the link for the YouTube channel where it will be posted tomorrow. I would just like to tell you that our next session will be on the 24th of February, and this will be the first hybrid one. So it will be on site in Sciences Po, Paris. So people who are based in Paris in February, we will have our first on site session in Sciences Po, Paris, and it will be also broadcasted online. So it will be the first hybrid one. You are invited. The link will be shared with you as well tomorrow. Thank you very much and see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much. Hopefully,
Bye-bye.
I'll see you again soon. Yes, bye.